Hello and welcome to the Gardens and Graveyards channel. My name is Charisma and today we are celebrating Friday. It's Friday and we are talking about how I keep everything under control with the details in my garden on a weekly basis by doing one particular chore each and every day so that nothing piles up and we don't get overwhelmed with all the details that we need to tend to in the garden. And then, not be able to do the things we really enjoy and love to do in the garden. So on Fridays, we fertilize and fumigate. Okay, we don't really fumigate. It's just an F word, not a bad one, that will just mean that we kill bugs and non-beneficials. So our biggest, we don't put a tent over our whole house and fumigate or our garden. We do use Chores. That's the most, as far as killing any bugs or slugs, we use Chores. And it works the best. I've not used the Bonide slug and bug bait yet. I do intend to try that out next year because this last year we had to use Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. And it worked really well for us and I liked it. I've also used the Captain Jack's copper fungicide for black spot and rust. So I like their products, and so I would like to try the Bonide option for slug and bug. I have used Sluggo in the past, and it just didn't do the job as well as Corey's. I do like Sluggo Plus because it deals with earwigs, and because we stopped using Sluggo Plus, we did see a bigger population of earwig this last summer. We're also just beginning to see evidence of Japanese beetles in our garden. So this spring, we will be doing a grub control to try to prevent the Japanese beetle larvae from becoming adults. So when I'm treating on Tuesdays, I trim and treat, right? So treatment, I'm working with herbicides and fungicides that deal with fungus and viruses in my plants. On Fridays, when I'm fumigating, I'm dealing with pests in the garden. I also fertilize on Fridays, and I do a lot more fertilizing than fumigating by far. So in the summertime, our annuals get fertilized by the Proven Winners Fast Release Annual Fertilizer. It gets added into our water and hand watered into our annuals. I also use Espoma slow release products when I plant and I decide I want to fertilize our evergreens. So I'll turn my camera around and show you what those products look like. So this is the Chores Slug and Snail Killer, and it is a pellet form. It's safe for pets and people. You don't want to feed your pets or anything like that, but pets and people can enter the area immediately after it's applied. It won't cause any harm. It doesn't specifically say it's safe for aquatics, so I try to keep it away from my creek because we do have amphibians. We have frogs and we have salamanders, and I don't want those soft-bodied amphibians to get a hold of these, because what these pellets do is the slugs or snails, we don't really have snails, we have lots of slugs, They ingest it, and then they become completely dehydrated. They're unable to take up any water. And then the Sluggo works exactly the same way, and I believe the Bonide does as well. And I'd like to find out if Bonide is safe for aquatics, because I'd love to find a product that's really good to get rid of the slugs and is safe for my salamanders and frogs. All right, so on to fertilizing. We have holly tone, plant tone, and rose tone. So my rose tone is for all rose plants, shrubs, in not just roses, but camellias, azaleas, all those kinds of flowering plants do really well with rose tone. Holly tone is also can be used for our evergreen azaleas and rhododendrons, and obviously holly, and really any kind of evergreen tree like our lemon cypresses or anything like that. And then the plant tone is something that I pretty much plant anything that I put in the ground or in a pot. I put some plant tone in there, and those are all slow release fertilizers. They are also granular, and they the formula releases all of their minerals and such with a little bit of heat in the soil. While we're looking at this, I also have an acid mix for specifically for my blueberries in pots, and we have very acidic soil, so I don't really need it for anything else, but I do have blueberries in pots, so I like to give them a little extra boost because they like that acidic soil. The downside to using pellets for slug bait is that when it's raining, those pellets just turn to total mush and they're useless. So that's why I'm not showing you guys anything today. We don't have any annuals out anymore. We do have some pansies in our baskets, our front porch baskets, but I don't fertilize them all winter long. They just sort of, sit there slowly. Their roots aren't really taking up much nutrition. It's really, I only fertilize starting in like March. I start fertilizing my camellias, azaleas, and evergreens, our rhododendrons. And then I'll fertilize them all again in about May after they're done blooming. And then that kind of is it for all of my shrubs and evergreens. And then I go into starting to use our annual quick release fertilizer as soon as I start planting annuals, and that's usually at the end of May for us here on the Oregon coast in Zone 9A. It is raining today, so I'm not going to go out and show you how I spread the pellets, but basically I just take handfuls of the pellets of the slug bait and broadcast toss them over areas that I know they live. This time of year, they are making their babies, and they really love to live in the rose campium. They don't eat it, but they make their homes in there. They also often live in the strawberry ground cover and any kind of really like low-growing, dense plant that they can kind of hibernate in and have their babies. That's where they're living. And then our dahlias and our hostas, those are the favorites that they eat. Just, they'll gobble those right up. So, and those are probably the top 5 most amount of plants that we have on our garden as far as the perennials that we grow, or bulbs that we grow. They don't really bother the daffodils or tulips or anything like that. It's just the dahlias. They did kind of get to my irises this year, and I think that's because I had such a large strawberry patch and a huge dense patch of rose campium growing right alongside my irises. So I took those patches out to not only, let the irises breathe a little bit, but to get the slugs kind of away from there. I don't want to just like only bait the slugs. I want to get rid of the slugs, right? I don't want to just have to kill them. I want them to be gone. The first 2 years that we lived here, we did this beer bait, and we were going through a 24-pack of beer a week. And every single day we would empty, I think we had like 25 shallow glasses of beer. So you get a glass and you put a little tiny bit of beer on the bottom, and the slugs crawl up and drink the beer and drown. And then they just stay in there. And we were emptying all of those every single day and putting new beer in there, fresh beer in there. And then what I read was that slugs can smell the yeast of the beer, and that's what they're attracted to. For up to half a mile to a mile away. So basically what I was doing with all these containers of beer all over my garden was calling all the slugs to my garden. And on their way to the beer traps, they were eating my plants. So not the most ideal situation. That was my experience with beer traps anyways. Very effective because you can see the dead slugs and then you have to empty it. And if you've never touched a slug, they are incredibly slimy and they stick, like the slime sticks on you and it's nearly impossible to get off. Like soap and water is not good enough. You've got to use like rubbing alcohol. And not that I was touching the slimy dead slugs, but it would get on you and you would like empty the jar and all this slime goo would like slide out of it. It was so gross. It was really gross. So yeah, you could see that the slugs were dying, but you could also see they were never ending. And once we started using Sluggo, it decreased the population greatly. And then once we started using Chores, we barely saw any slugs this year at all. As a matter of fact, I found one banana slug that I moved over to the forest because the banana slug is a native slug in our area. So I don't necessarily want to kill the slug. I mean, they do have good purposes, right? They help decompose trees and down logs and leaves that have fallen. They are part of the process of composting. And so they do have a purpose. It's just that they will also decimate your garden and the things that you want growing. They love live plants just as like juicy, yummy, full of water leaves just as much as they will go for the decomposing forest floor plants. So that's it for Fridays. I mean, we just take an hour, and in the summertime, it takes me about an hour to hour and a half to fertilize all of my annuals and then broadcast all the slug bait around, and that's it. And then I can just get into whatever I wanted to do for the garden that day. I had one plant with thrips last year, and I was just every Friday on top of that plant with the Captain Jack's product to make sure that we could get rid of those thrips. And then even at the end of the summer, we just threw away all the soil. We threw away the plant. We threw away the coconut core. It was in a basket. We threw it all away and put it in a garbage bag into the dump, not into our compost, and got rid of the thrips. And hopefully that'll take care of any residents of thrips in the garden next year. But if we do have any other issues, we will address them. And when we do address them, it'll be on a Friday. So I hope you're enjoying your Friday. I hope you have a great weekend planned, and I hope you're celebrating your life, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.